Coming up, the story behind Jimmy Buffett's Margaritaville on Rock Music History Lesson. James William Buffett was born in Pascagoula, Mississippi on December 25, 1946. Jimmy was the only boy in a family of 3 children, and he spent his early years in Mobile, Alabama. His boyhood experiences on the Alabama shoreline proved to be a huge influence on his music later on in life, with the ocean, beach, fishing, and sailing all being common themes in his songs. Jimmy's parents wanted him to become either a priest or a naval officer, and he attended parochial schools and an all-male prep school. From his earliest days as a performer at Mobile's Admirals Club, Jimmy had an innate ability to connect with his audience. His folksy, easy manner drew a fiercely loyal fan base, the earliest Parrot Heads. In 1965, Jimmy enrolled at Auburn University in Alabama. Though he had learned to play the trombone while in grade school, he had never picked up a guitar. When he noticed how a school chum at Auburn was getting a lot of attention from co-eds because of his guitar, Jimmy immediately asked his friend to teach him how to play. Unfortunately, his newfound interest in music and girls caused him to lose focus on his studies, and he failed out of Auburn in the spring of 1966. In order to avoid the draft, he enrolled in Pearl River Community College in Poplarville, Mississippi that fall and began playing music to pay for his studies. Just over an hour from Poplarville lay New Orleans, where Jimmy worked as a street musician, immersing himself in the French Quarter hippie scene. He and 2 friends also had a band called the Upstairs Alliance that played the club circuit along the coast. Having learned a thing or two at Auburn about keeping his grades up, he managed to do just that while at Pearl River Community College, and he eventually transferred to the University of Southern Mississippi in 1969, where he completed a bachelor's degree in history. As years passed, Buffett was a struggling songwriter who needed a real job and got one with Billboard magazine. This would be around 1971. His job started out covering the Grand Ole Opry, and then it led to other things. Buffett says working for Billboard with a guy named Bill Williams helped him learn early about the music business. A few years go by, and he records Come Monday, which gained him national attention. Then, in 1977, things really changed when he wrote and recorded Margaritaville. So, what's the story behind Margaritaville? In an interview with Bobby Bones, Buffett says he was playing in Austin when the idea started. After the show, he was a little hungover, and his friend takes him to a Mexican restaurant for burritos and a margarita. Jimmy says, quote, "That was a damn good margarita," unquote. He started writing Wasted Away, then his friend took him to the airport because he lived in Key West. He got back in Miami, and while driving to the Keys going home, there was a wreck on the 7-mile bridge with traffic backed up. So he wrote the ending to Margaritaville on the 7-mile bridge. He finished it when he got to Key West. Jimmy Buffett recorded Margaritaville with producer Norbert Putnam at Criteria Studios in Miami. Buffett and Putnam met in Nashville, which is where each did most of their work. When Buffett asked Putnam to work on an album of songs about a carefree lifestyle by the water, Putnam told him that he needed to be near the water when recording it if he was going to pull it off, so Miami it was. There are 2 different stories concerning Norbert Putnam and Margaritaville. One, Putnam says, quote, "One day in the studio he comes in and starts telling me about a day he had in Key West," unquote. Buffett told him he had written some lyrics after coming home from a bar, and he lost one of his flip-flops, and he stepped on a pop-top, and he couldn't find salt for his margarita. Putnam told him, quote, "That's a terrible idea for a song," unquote. A few days later, he comes back with Wasted Away in Margaritaville, which became Margaritaville. The second story comes from an interview with Putnam with News Nation, September of 23. He said, first of all, that he hated the title Margaritaville for the reasons Ville was getting attached to everything. Motown was Hitsville. Henry Mancini had released Dreamsville. About a week later, when they're in the studio recording Margaritaville, Putnam says it was one of the best songs ever written. Here's a footnote. There's a lost verse that was not released on the original, but Jimmy's performed it many times in concert. Here are the lyrics. Old men in tank tops, cruising the gift shops, checking out Chiquitas down by the shore. I found her. They dream about weight loss, wish they could be their own boss. Those 3-day vacations become such a bore. The song Margaritaville has become synonymous with a carefree Caribbean lifestyle. Some residents of Key West refer to this way of living as Keys disease because they only experience it on vacation or at Jimmy Buffett concerts. The song Margaritaville is also responsible for the Margaritaville chain of restaurants, merchandise, and other items. The Margaritaville chain is a multi-billion-dollar business. Margaritaville climbed to number 8 on the Billboard charts in 1977. Sadly, Jimmy Buffett died of lymphoma on September 1st, 2023 at the age of 76. It's estimated that Buffett was worth an astounding $1 billion. It's not bad for a guy who has said in previous interviews that all he ever wanted to do was write some songs, sing, and make a living. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. Thanks for watching Rock Music History Lesson. I'm K.W. Keene.